Once again, a warm welcome to all of our attendees. We thank you for taking the time out to hear these Toolbox Talks every Tuesday morning. And we also really appreciate that afterwards, there's a lot of feedback from yourselves in connection with the information that you heard or extra information. And we want to say how much we appreciate that. So please continue to do that. As always, we start our Toolbox Talks with the tips to continually prevent COVID-19. We do realize COVID-19 is on the rise again. There's a lot more cases coming up to us. And so we just want to encourage you to please continue to wash your hands regularly for 20 seconds. If you don't have soap and water available to wash your hands, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer as well. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands, as well as adhere to social distancing. And should somebody be sick, get your person to isolation, or rather make sure that you avoid contact with him if possible. Then cover your cough or sneeze with a flexed elbow or tissue and make sure you throw that tissue into the bin, and clean and disinfect frequently touched objects and surfaces. This would include things like our hand tools, our handles, and the objects, tools, equipment, or anything that we touch during the day that could potentially have the potential for cross-contamination. So we touch it, we cough in our hand, and then we touch our tools, we share our tools, and this is how easy it could spread. If you are able to, please do your part and get vaccinated as well, dependent on your company's vaccination policy. So to get started this morning, we are looking at the new OHS Act Bill. So our safety thought for this week is that health and safety is in your hands. There is a huge possibility for you to be able to do it yourself. You can obviously get the assistance of ourselves at IOPSA as well as OHS Consulting to help you get into place a full management system for your companies, for your sites. But really what we are trying to achieve is to help you do it yourself. Now, this is not because we don't want to assist you for the two benefits. One, you're going to be saving a lot of money because consulting fees can become quite costly. Secondly, it's going to assist you to understand what is needed so that the wool cannot be pulled over your eyes. You see, if you know and understand what is required, then if somebody tells you there is something needed, you can know 100% what is required and what isn't, and then know whether somebody's taking a chance with telling you to put something in place that they shouldn't be putting in place. So this is really what we want to discuss just briefly this morning. What is the new OHS Act Bill? What does it mean? What is going to happen in the next coming months? And then what must you as a plumber do to be able to be compliant to this new bill? Now, when we talk about any health and safety legislation, we always know that the current legislation is what stands. So the current or original Occupational Health and Safety Act, which was enacted in 1993, this had the purpose of providing for the health and safety of people at work, all while operating equipment and machinery. So this encompassed almost every single company. In fact, it worked for any company where you were using even computers, laptops, if you were sitting behind the desk using a till. If you were using a phone, this would also assist that employee. More importantly, we looked at those who were working in workshops, those who were working with tools or heavy equipment, obviously because of the rate of the risk. Now, while the OHS Act is legally enforceable and managed by the Department of Labor, the aim of the new bill is to ensure that businesses have direct consequence for non-compliance. So we understand it's still the same act. The new bill, though, seeks to amend that act of 1993. So there's not going to be a new Occupational Health and Safety Act. The current act still stands, but there are amendments that are going to be implemented within the next year. So it says that the gazetted of this act or this bill is going to be signed into legislation in the first half of 2023. That is the current information that we've received, which means within the next year, you will have a new Occupational Health and Safety Act amendment. So the bill enforces stricter health and safety requirements. And then obviously it also enforces stricter penalties that will be coming. This means we need to be prepared. Please remember though, what is the ultimate goal of the Health and Safety Act? Well, the objective of the entire Occupational Health and Safety Act, in fact, all legislation that supports occupational health and safety, is to provide for the health and safety of persons at work, from the health and safety of persons in connection with the use of plant and machinery, as well as protecting others. Others would be anybody else that might be affected by the work that you perform. So really, the objective is very clear. We want to protect the occupational health and safety of every person that may be impacted by the risks and hazards that are associated with our work. Now, keep that in mind because the objective is extremely important in what we're going to discuss throughout this Toolbox Talk today. Excuse me, sorry. There we go. So Section 7, this is the first amendment that is coming into place. Section 7 currently, if you take a look at your Occupational Health and Safety Act, it states that all businesses must have an occupational health and safety policy. So it says that obviously the Department of Labor inspector could put out a request that all companies have a health and safety policy. And on this policy, you need to state the objectives of the company. First of all, you need to state what is the company about, a little bit of a description of your company, and then you need to explain what are your objectives toward occupational health and safety. And that's a very basic document. In fact, most companies have a one-page document. Even in our template that we send you for safety files, it's just a one-page document. It just shows you a brief understanding of what you as a company is going to do to achieve health and safety. The problem with Section 7 is that once you have the document, you have fulfilled the law, but you have not fulfilled the document. And so there is a shortfall where you cannot now be penalized for not implementing what is in the policy because you have the policy. But you see the amendment is now stating that you need to act on what you've said in the policy. So the biggest fundamental change of the bill is that now businesses, and we're speaking to you as plumbers, you will now need to develop a safety management system. So Section 7 has been changed from policy, one-page, two-page documents, to an entire safety management system. Now, what that means for your company could be different for somebody else. But notice what the definition, and this is also the definition in the Occupational Health and Safety Act Amendment Bill. So it states that a safety management system is a health and safety management system, a coordinated, comprehensive set of interrelated or interacting elements to establish occupational health and safety policy and objectives in order to optimally manage health and safety. So again, the move from having the health and safety policy is going to change now to becoming a system or elements of a system where a whole lot of supporting documentation will be encouraged in order to support your overall policy or objective to health and safety. Basically, what the Department of Labor is now saying is you now need to prove what you are doing from that policy that you originally had. So this is your first step as a plumber. You need to have a look at what your policy states, and then you need to design a set of documentation that supports that policy. Now, it might sound like you have to start at step 1, but that is not the case. You see, a whole lot of documents that you've already prepared for site is basically the supporting documentation. We just need to make sure that it is interrelated. In other words, it is connected to each other. What your policy says is what your plan says, and what you've planned to do is what your risk assessment says. So we don't want one thing said in a plan and another thing said in an assessment, and then a completely different document that's not even included in your safety management system. So it's a system that's living and breathing and feeds off each other. In other words, your scope of work will depend on what you are going to do on site. However, as a plumber, you have all your scope of work already included in a business. So regardless of what you're going to be doing on site, your safety management system is going to be designed around what you as a plumbing company perform. So you need to think of the site safety and your safety management system as two separate entities. Now, why do we say this, and why is that going to seem to be an issue, but it's not actually an issue? Well, for one, it's not going to be a site-specific set of documentation. It's going to be a company-specific one. In other words, it's only specific to you as a company. For instance, at our OHSA, we have our own safety management system. It doesn't include all the plumbing works in South Africa because we don't perform all those plumbing works, but it includes all the working operational sections of what IOPSA does, driving to clients, doing audits, standing and doing shows. Even to a degree, we have a little section in our safety management system that helps us to ensure health and safety when doing any exhibitions or any conventions, or even if we have IOPSA roadshows. So those risks are already covered within our management system, which other plumbing companies will not have. So if you are a plumber as well as an electrician, your management system must cover both aspects, plumbing and electrical, in total of what your company does. Now, how is this going to help you when it comes to that site-specific file? Well, remember, we mentioned before that a site-specific file takes into consideration mostly what you are performing as your scope of work, which is already what you do in a company, and you've already put aside in your safety management system. So you just need to draw that document for that specific thing that you're doing. For instance, within plumbing, you might be installing a Propel Air toilet that has its own little safety management system, its own risk assessment, its own plan. You can draw those documentation from your safety management system into your site-specific file. The other element toward a site-specific file is your client requirements. So site requirements. What is the risk on site, and what are the certain safety requirements my client wants me to implement? Sometimes it might already be part of your safety management system, but it will require further site visits to identify this. So this is where another very big part of your safety management system is needing to be changed, because risk management is the biggest focus of what the OHS Act, as well as the new amendment bill, is seeking to implement. This means that businesses will be required to formalize health and safety procedures with policies, objectives, as well as measurement tools, audits, and checking whether incidents and accidents are actually occurring or whether they're not occurring, and how you are protecting your employees from this. But now it's requiring this documented risk assessment as well as a secondary document, and this is a risk assessment plan. So this is now different to your safety management system. It is a risk management plan. How are you identifying your risk or your hazards, first of all, and then assessing the risk and implementing the correct control measures? Now, there is a definition for what is a risk assessment in the new OHS bill as well. The risk assessment means the process for evaluating the risk to an employee's health and safety from workplace hazards. And it is a systematic assessment of all aspects of work. And they must consider these 5 elements. First of all, it must be a complete hazard identification. So as we mentioned, it's not a site-specific one. It's a complete one for the company. All the hazards that you might face in your company, in any operational area of your company. Then you have to have an identification of who might be affected by each of the hazards. For instance, if you have an ergonomic hazard for an incorrect chair placement, screen placement, chair table, that ergonomic risk that you are also going to have within an office space, who are all the persons that are going to be affected by that risk? We need to identify these ones. Then you need to identify how the person will be affected. So what are going to be the consequences or the impact on that person from the actual hazard? Then you need to analyze and evaluate the actual risk. And this is where you're going to have a risk rating. And based on that risk rating, it will tell you whether it is high, medium, or low. Sometimes, depending on your risk assessment, it might even be a catastrophic risk. If that is the case, you now need to prioritize those risks. In other words, you need to set them up in order of priority. Priority being given, obviously, to the highest risk areas. These are the ones that you will then start with implementation of proper controls, and you will have more stringent reviews as well as monitoring tools on your higher risk areas. So the way the system is going to be designed seems right now very complicated, but it actually isn't. You see, what you are currently doing in your risk assessments and site-specific files is already a step in the right direction. If you have your own safety management system, or perhaps you've bought one from OHS Consulting, that already conforms to the new OHS bill. So what do you need to do then as a plumber? Well, first of all, you need to take a look at your current safety management system, your set of documents for health and safety, all of them completely. It would be very good, and this is a very good idea, something that we've done at OHS Consulting for taking the actual safety management system. We've documented all of the documents into specific document numbers, and then these relate to separate documents within the safety management system. The reason why this is a good idea is because we can refer to specific document numbers instead of the document itself, because we often forget what the document is or what documents we are supposed to have. So having a list of document numbers and then what type of document it is helps us to see if we have, first of all, everything in place. And when we do a monitoring assessment, we go through each one of the documents that needs to be either reviewed, or perhaps we need to amend that document because we've changed something in a different document. So it's just a little bit more structured. And this is something that all of us need to have in place. And it is something that's not going to take you too long to put in place. But if you don't start now, you might be caught off guard when the new OHS bill actually is enacted, and then you have to have it in place immediately. So why not take the time now to ensure that you have a properly designed and functional safety management system? Because this will allow you then to better prepare for, as well as mitigate, all your hazards and risks on a daily basis. Not only is it going to be beneficial for your company and your employees, but you will then be able to adhere to and have compliance to the new OHS Act Bill. So the new management system that needs to be in place from the OHS Bill, which is, as we mentioned, within the first 6 months of 2023, will be enacted, enforced, and then they are going to enforce it. It is a comprehensive set of procedures, things that make sense in terms of health and safety. And if you're only getting started now, include your employees in this, because they are the ones that need to be protected, and perhaps they can also assist you in designing these new documents. So as we mentioned, there might also be new penalties. Now, these penalties are going to range from R0 for just a notification, or they are going to issue you a document stating that you haven't actually conformed and you have a specific period of time, up to R5 million worth of fines. Now, this does not mean a total of R5 million. It could be individual fines. So the current penalties for non-compliance with OHS include the prohibition notice with a period of time in which to correct your infringements. But there's no real implications on the day. In other words, they will give you the notice that you have not conformed, and then you have a specific period of time. With a new bill, though, inspectors will be given the power to issue administrative fines on the spot. All right, and you can be issued a fine per infringement. So this includes something like not establishing a health and safety committee. For instance, if you have 20 employees and you have a health and safety representative, if this is not in place, you could have a fine of R50,000 on the spot, which has to be paid. and you still have to rectify the actual situation. Now, if you thought to yourself, how much would you pay for a safety management system or a safety file? Would it be more than 50,000 Rand? I don't think so. And if you are paying that much, then obviously you're using the wrong consultant. So just one fine, one infringement for one contravention could give you a proper safety management system. But don't just go out and buy the first one that you see or get a consultant in to sort out all your problems. Do it yourself as well. Now, why do we say that? IOPSA is developing a set of OHS standardized systems that will be a safety management system. You will receive this entire safety management system at the end of the prime course. And this should finish within the first few months of 2023. It is currently being reviewed. Obviously, you have been waiting for it. You've been asking for it. The first 3 courses are already available for you. The risk assessment one is probably what you are currently waiting for if you are doing prime. And we do, again, always apologize if we are delaying it, but it is because we want to be ahead of everyone else. And so we don't want to train you on old legislation and then say to you, sorry, all those courses you did in 2022 now need to be redone in 2023. Instead of sending you on that course now, and by the way, Prime is free of charge for IOPSA members, we are reviewing it to the new legislation. That new legislation will then be enacted into 2023 into legislation. Then the course that we have designed for you automatically complies to that. So please bear with us. We are trying to ensure that all of our members get the best support possible. That will clearly outline the new requirements, and you will also be given templates for these. Again, the templates are based on industry standard. It might not be everything that you need. IOPSA can only do so much. We can only give you standardized documentation for general plumbing. If you need the assistance, that's why you have the assistance of OHS's consulting and myself to be able to come out and actually give you the advice that you need. But the course for the new bill, as well as for Prime, is then going to help you to manage your entire safety management system. That is the actual purpose of why we designed the course, was to take you through the entire safety management system and then also explain what it is, give you the template so that you as a plumber can actually run your own safety eventually. Now, it's not because we don't like business. It's not because we don't want new clients. As IOPSA, we obviously always want new members. And as OHS's consulting, we always want to have new clients. But we do want clients that are able to assist themselves so that the reliance comes to you, because safety is really in your hands. So if you do need assistance with this, if you are not too sure what to do next, where to go, please email us safety@iopsa.org or get in touch with info@OHSS Consulting if you would like their template safety file for the now. That template safety file can assist you with your current safety management system. It will give you a set of documents that will kind of conform to the new bill, but it 100% conforms to the current legislation. However, this is being revised. So please remember that entire safety file, that template that we have, is going to be done away with. A brand new set of documentation is being set up for our plumbing members. Then our WhatsApp line on 071-875-2070 if you have any questions. Otherwise, if you are a SIOSH member, you get 1 CPD point for each one of these Toolbox Talks. And if you are a PRB, Plumbing Industry Registration Board member, you get 0.25 PRB CPD points for each of the Toolbox Talks. So coming up for November, we are looking at skin cancer, obviously because of the sun and how this could affect you. We are also looking at basic first aid. What should you do on site with your safety, with your first aid boxes? Then we're going to look at basic firefighting. We'll look at emergency evacuation, as well as Arrive Alive. How are you driving on our roads? Are you keeping yourself safe? So that's all from our side. We'll hand it over back to you, Karim.
Thank you very much, Chris, for this informative session. We do have a question from Colin this morning. Why do governments put legislation out that can be used to make money, but not help the labor market to have less red tape so people can actually work?
That is a very good question, and one that should obviously be posed to the Department of Labor. That's not something that we can actually answer you, Colin, and we do apologize. We understand your frustration. It's frustrating for us as well. But we have good news for you, Colin. Take the frustration out of it. Look at the support that you have. IOPSA as an institute is there for its members. We want to protect you as much as possible. And when the government releases any new legislation, even though it does seem like it's a money-making thing, there is a lot of benefit to adhering to it. So use IOPSA as the assistance. Remember, there's a lot of free stuff that you can already get that IOPSA is already paying OHSS consulting for. Just make use of it. If you don't know what those are, get in touch with us and we'll tell you all the areas that you can be using free of charge already. Then, Colin, you're not spending any money. And we want to save you those funds. Let's rather put that money back into your business to get a stronger plumbing community. So we appreciate that question, Colin. I'm sorry I cannot answer it the way you want.
Thank you very much, Chris. I believe that's all the questions from my side. Is there anything you'd like to add before I end off, Chris?
Just a very big thank you again to yourself, Karim, and then to all of our plumbing members and participants for these Toolbox Talks. Obviously, you know that you are welcome to invite as many as you want. These Toolbox Talks are free of charge. Whether you are going to be watching the recording or you are watching it live on a Tuesday morning, you can take that link or share it with them on the IOPSA LMS system. And we encourage you to do that so that more people, even if they are not plumbers, can get the information that is required for them to be compliant. So have a great week and we'll chat to you next week. Thank you.